The Amsterdam Museum and Civic Guards Gallery. Pause at the entrance to the museum complex to view the archway. On the slumping arch is Amsterdam's coat of arms, a red shield with 3 X's and a crown. The X-shaped cross represents the crucifixion of St. Andrew, the patron saint of fishermen. There's 3 X's to symbolize the 3 virtues of heroism, determination, and mercy. Before that, it's thought that they symbolized the 3 great medieval threats: fire, flood, and plague. Now check out the relief above the door, dated 1581. It shows boys around a dove, asking for charity, reminding all who pass that this was once an orphanage. Now go inside. There's a pleasant cafe, a pay toilet, and a shaded courtyard lined by old lockers for the orphans' uniforms.
The courtyard leads to another courtyard with the best city history museum in town, the Amsterdam Museum. Between the 2 courtyards on the left is a free, glassed-in passageway. Enter this passageway, which is lined with paintings. This is the Civic Guard Gallery, or Shooter's Gallery.
This hall features group portraits from Amsterdam's Golden Age, the early 1600s. A giant statue of Goliath and a knee-high David from 1650 watch over the whole thing. Stroll around and gaze into the eyes of the hard-working men and women who made tiny Holland so prosperous and powerful. They had colonies as far away as India, Indonesia, and America. Remember, New York was originally New Amsterdam. Begijnhof. This quiet courtyard, lined with houses around a church, has sheltered women since 1346. What a contrast with the noisy Kalverstraat just steps away. This was for centuries the home of Begijns, pious and simple women who removed themselves from the world at large to dedicate their lives to God. When it was first established, it literally was a woman's island, a circle of houses facing a peaceful courtyard, completely surrounded by water. Begin your visit by finding the statue of one of these charitable sisters. You'll find it just beyond the church. The Begijns were a lay order of Christian women. Their ranks swelled during the Crusades, when so many men took off never to return, leaving society with an abundance of single women. Later, women widowed by the hazards of overseas trade lived out their days as Begijns as well. Poor and rich women alike turned their backs on materialism and marriage to live here, in Christian poverty. And though obedient to a mother superior, the members of the lay order of Begijns were not nuns. The Begijns were very popular in their communities for the lives they led, unpretentious, simple, and with a Christ-like dedication to serving others. They spent their days deep in prayer and busy with daily tasks, spinning wool, making lace, teaching, and caring for the sick and poor. In quiet seclusion, they provided a striking contrast to the more decadent and corrupt Roman Church, inspiring one another as well as their neighbors. Now turn your attention to the brick-faced English Reformed Church. The church was built in 1420 to serve the Begijn community. But in 1607, this church became Anglican. The church served as a refuge for English traders and religious refugees fleeing persecution in England. The famous pilgrims stopped here in tolerant Amsterdam and may have even prayed in this very church before sailing to religious freedom in America. If the church is open, its hours are sporadic, step inside. At the far end, you'll see a stained glass window. It shows the pilgrims praying before boarding the Mayflower. Along the right-hand wall of the church is an old pew they may have sat on. On the altar is a Bible from 1763, with lots of old-style language and lettering. Now head back outside. Find the church that faces the English Reformed Church. This is the Catholic Church. Because Catholics were persecuted, this had to be a low-profile, hidden church. Notice the painted-out windows on the second and third floors. Step inside, going through the low-profile doorway. This church served Amsterdam's oppressed 17th-century Catholics who refused to worship as Protestants. It's lovingly decorated, if on the cheap. Try tapping softly on a column. That's not real marble. Amsterdam's Catholics must have joyfully celebrated the day when, in the 19th century, they were legally allowed to say Mass. Step back outside. Survey the houses around the courtyard, but be discreet and stay near the churches. The last Begijn died in 1971, but today this Begijnhof thrives. It still provides subsidized housing to about 100 needy single women, mostly Catholic seniors. The Begijnhof is just one of a few dozen other hofjes, or little housing projects surrounding courtyards, that dot Amsterdam. The statue of the Begijn faces a black wooden house at number 34. This structure dates from 1477. It's the city's oldest house. Originally, the entire city consisted of wooden houses like this one. They were eventually replaced with brick houses to minimize the fire danger of having so many homes packed so close together. Now, stroll a few steps to the left of the old house. There's a display of colorfully painted and carved gable stones. Stones like these once adorned house fronts and served as street numbers all over Amsterdam. The Mint Tower. This tower, which marked the limit of the medieval walled city, served as one of the original gates. The city walls were girdled by a moat, now called the Single Canal. Until about 1500, the area beyond here was nothing but marshy fields and a few farms on reclaimed land. The Mint Tower's steeple was added later, in the year 1620, as you can see written below the clock face. Today the tower's a favorite with Amsterdam's marijuana culture. Stoners just love to take a photo of the clock and its 1620 sign at exactly 4:20.